Oh, my young friends are not here with me today, but would you still like me to do my children's moment? Yeah, I figured so. For all of you who said that my children's moment are easier to understand than my sermons, I thank you for that. So today we're talking about the transfiguration of Jesus. What does the word transfiguration mean? Change. Yeah, technically, a complete change of form or disappearance or of appearance into a more beautiful or spiritual state. Pretty cool, huh? Kind of reminds me of caterpillars, right? Caterpillars. You've seen those? What do caterpillars turn into? Come on, I have to pretend like I'm talking to little kids. It's a butterflies, right? All right. Here's the tricky part, since I'm speaking to the grown-ups in the congregation. Not that long ago, I preached a sermon to you about how this turns into this. Do you remember? All right, now I promise you that if they can't remember, you guys weren't here, so you're off the hook. If they can't remember the term that I taught them, I am preaching that exact same sermon again real soon. Okay, well, we know that the caterpillar goes into a cocoon, right? And inside the cocoon, what happens? The caterpillar breaks down and turns into a kind of primordial goo. Sounding familiar yet, right? Now, how do you turn this primordial goo into this? Like, these do not look at all similar, right? There is a very special kind of cell in there. It's critical for this to turn into this inside the primordial goo. You're all going to slap your heads as soon as I say it. Imaginal discs. Oh, right. You talked for that like half an hour one day. I remember. Okay, you don't, so I'm going to preach that sermon again, I promise. So what an incredible thing, right? So an imaginal disc is a cell that can turn into anything. So somewhere in the caterpillar's DNA, there's this program that says to it, turn your goo into different colors, wings, antenna. It's pretty amazing. This transfiguration that happens from the caterpillar to the butterfly is a lot like what the disciples witnessed that day. It was as if they were looking at Jesus, and he looked at first like this. But all of a sudden, he changed, and they could see this inside of him. And a voice came from heaven and said, "This is my beloved. Listen to him." And do you know why that voice said that? Because everyone was being called to do this, to be transformed and to be transfigured in the love of God into followers, disciples of Jesus that would go and help take care of the world. Isn't that amazing? And so I want to invite you all today, as we continue to explore this story, to think about where in your being imaginal discs might exist, calling you to turn from caterpillar to butterfly, to bring the very love of God to your community and beyond, to the very ends of the earth. What an incredible gift. Are you ever going to forget imaginal discs again?
Nope.
Adam's not. That was a hearty nope that I got from him. But no, really, I am going to preach that sermon again because I don't know if you remember, I talked about it in the context of restructuring our church. We're going to have that conversation again coming up. So I'm going to preach that sermon again to remind you of how we are living with primordial goo. Would you have a prayer with me, my friends? Gracious and loving God, today we give you thanks for the story of the transfiguration of Jesus on the mountaintop. And we ask that you would help us to be like Jesus' disciples, that we could witness this story not as just a long ago event, but something that you continually call us to be transformed and transfigured into your people in this place so that we could make your love real in our world. Amen. Okay. On to the next thing. Time for gratitude and generosity. Okay. All right, I want to come back down here because I was having so much fun. So I have been reading this book that my son gave me for Christmas. And it is called How Do You Live by Genzaburo Yoshino. This is a Japanese author. And my son, many of you know, is at DePaul University in Chicago studying film. And one of his favorite directors is, I'm going to murder his name, Hayao Miyazaki, who is an anime director. And he, one of his most favorite movies is Spirited Away. If you haven't seen it, they should see it, right? Oh, yeah. Yes, right. It's on HBO Max, if you have that. Isn't it? I don't know. We have the old fashioned video. So I should tell you that the book that I'm reading is from 1937. How Do You Live? And in this story, it's a novel, the author talks about this uncle who is relating to his nephew. The nephew's father has died, and it's sort of like this father figure. And throughout the story, he talks about life and growing up and being a good human being in the world. And there's this point at which the uncle says to his nephew, whose nickname is Copper, read the book if you want to figure out how he got that nickname. But this is what it says. Copper, pay careful attention to the word arigatai. As you know, we use it to express thanks or gratitude. But the root of the word in Japanese means something like difficult, hard, or impossible. It means this never happens. We are grateful for good fortune specifically because we feel that it rarely happens. Thus, the word arigatai has come to refer to something special or rare enough to be thankful for. So when we say arigato, which is how you say thank you in Japanese, arigato, it becomes an expression of gratitude. So it may not mean I am grateful for this directly, but the Japanese are more poetic than that. The gratefulness of someone who has a reason to say arigato is implied in the humility of the fact that this rarity of a favor is acknowledged and someone just made things a little easier or better for them. And so I share this with you as an invitation to pause and think of all the times and ways you say, thank you. Maybe next time, stop and consider the ways you are so grateful for that which is rare and precious, impossible almost. Think about your thank you in the way of arigato, this hard, impossible, rare thing that hardly ever happens. Let that gratitude deepen in your heart and soften your gaze in the world, giving thanks for the very rarity of it. Let us join our hearts and minds in the spirit of prayer. God of grace, with delight and devotion, we give our gratitude to you. Thank you. All we are and all we have are yours for the keeping. So accept the offering of our gift, however we make them, and our gratitude, and take these tokens of our faith and hope. And so then go and use us to bring peace and justice and love to all the world. Amen.